Om Shri Gurupyo Namaha, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. We've been seeing the beautiful pastimes of Lord Krishna, and in this episode, let's see the beauty of the gopis attracted by the flute. With the arrival of the beautiful autumn season, the waters in the lakes and rivers became as clear as crystal and filled with fragrant lotus flowers, and breezes blew very pleasantly. At that time, Krishna entered the forest of Vrindavana with the cows and cowherd boys. Krishna was very much pleased with the atmosphere of the forest, where flowers bloomed and bees and drones hummed very jubilantly, while the birds, trees and plants were all looking very happy. Krishna, tending the cows and accompanied by Sri Balarama and the cowherd boys, began to vibrate his transcendental flute. After hearing the vibration of the flute of Krishna, the gopis in Vrindavana remembered him and began to talk amongst themselves about how nicely Krishna was playing his flute. When the gopis were describing the sweet vibration of Krishna's flute, they also remembered their pastimes with him. Thus their minds became disturbed and they were unable to describe completely the beautiful vibration. While discussing the transcendental vibration, they remembered also how Krishna dressed, decorated with a peacock feather on his head, just like a dancing actor, and with blue flowers pushed over his ear. His garment glowed yellow gold and he was garlanded with a Vaijayanti necklace. Dressed in such an attractive way, Krishna filled up the holes of his flute with the nectar emanating from his lips. So they remembered him entering the forest of Vrindavana, which is always glorified by the footprints of Krishna and his companions. Krishna was very expert in playing the flute, and the gopis were captivated by the sound vibration, which was attractive not only to them but to all living creatures who heard it. One of the gopi told her friends, "The highest perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balarama entering the forest and playing their flutes and tending the cows with their friends." Persons who are constantly engaged in the transcendental meditation of seeing Krishna internally and externally by thinking of him playing the flute, entering the Vrindavana forest and tending the cows with the cowherd boys, have really attained the perfection of Samadhi. Samadhi trance means absorption of all the activities of the senses in a particular object, and the gopis indicate that the pastimes of Krishna are the perfection of all meditation and samadhi. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who is always absorbed in the thought of Krishna is the topmost of all yogis. How is it Krishna and Balarama are looking so beautiful? Another gopi said, "My dear friends, we cannot even think of his bamboo flute. What sort of pious activities did it execute so that it is now enjoying the nectar of the lips of Krishna, which is actually the property of us gopis? How is it possible that the flute, which is nothing but a bamboo rod, is always engaged in enjoying the nectar from Krishna's lips? Because the flute is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. The mother and the father of the flute must be happy." Another gopi spoke thus to her friends about Krishna. "Dear friend, our Vrindavana is proclaiming the glories of this entire earth, because this planet is glorified by the lotus footprints of the son of Devaki. Besides that, when Govinda plays his flute, the peacocks immediately become mad as if they had heard the rumbling of new cloud. When all the animals and trees and plants, either on the top of Govardhana hill or in the valley, see the dancing of the peacocks, they all stand still and listen to the transcendental sound of the flute with great attention. We think that this boon is not possible or available on planet Earth. Although the gopis were village cowherd women and the girls, they had extensive Vedic knowledge. Such is the effect of Vedic civilization. People in general would learn the highest truth of Vedas simply by hearing from authoritative source. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, just see the deer. Although they are dumb animals, they have approached the son of Maharaja Ananda Krishna. Not only are they attracted by the dress of Krishna and Balrama, but as soon as they hear the playing of the flute, the deer, along with their husband, offer respectful obeisance unto the Lord by looking at him with great affection." The gopis were envious of the deer because the deer were able to offer their service to Krishna along with their husbands. The gopis thought themselves not so fortunate because whenever they wanted to go to Krishna, their husbands are not very happy. Another gopi said to her friends, "My dear friends, the cows are also charmed as soon as they hear the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna. It sounds to them like the pouring of nectar, and they immediately spread their long ears just to catch the liquid nectar of the flute. As for the calves, they are seen with nipples of their mothers pressed in their mouth, but they cannot suck the milk. They remain stuck with devotion and tears glide down from their eyes, illustrating vividly how they are embracing Krishna heart to heart. These phenomena indicate that even the cows and calves in Vrindavana knew how to cry for Krishna and embrace him heart to heart. Actually, the perfection of Krishna consciousness can be culminated in shedding of tears from the eyes. Another young gopi told her mother, "My dear mother, the birds who are all looking at Krishna playing on his flute are sitting very attentively on the branches and twigs of different trees. From their features, it appears that they have forgotten everything and are engaged only in hearing Krishna's flute. This proves that they are not ordinary birds, they are great sages and devotees. And just to hear Krishna's flute, they have appeared in Vrindavana forest as birds. Great sages and scholars are interested in Vedic knowledge, but the essence of Vedic knowledge is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Vedascha sarver aham eva vedaha. Through the knowledge of the Vedas, Krishna has to be understood. From the behavior of these birds, it appeared that they were great scholars in Vedic knowledge, and that they took to Krishna's transcendental vibration and rejected all branches of Vedic knowledge. Even the river Yamuna, very much desiring to embrace the lotus feet of Krishna, after hearing the transcendental vibration of his flute, broke her fierce waves onto the floor very nicely with lotus flowers in her hands, just to present flowers to Mukunda with deep feeling. The scorching heat of the autumn sunshine was sometimes intolerable, and therefore the clouds in the sky appeared in sympathy about Krishna and Balrama and their boyfriends while they engaged in blowing their flutes. The clouds served as a soothing umbrella over their heads just to make friendship with Krishna. Another gopi began to praise the unique position of Govardhana hill in this way. How fortunate is this Govardhana hill, for it is enjoying the occasion of Lord Krishna and Sri Balrama, who are accustomed to walking on it. Thus Govardhana is always in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord. And because Govardhana hill is so obliged to Lord Krishna and Balrama, it is supplying different kinds of fruits, roots and herbs, as well as very pleasing crystal water from its lakes, in presentation to the Lord. The best presentation offered by Govardhana hill, however, is newly grown grass for the cows and calves. Govardhana hill knows how to please the Lord by pleasing his most beloved associates, the cows and the cowherd boys. Ananda Gopi said, everything appears wonderful when Krishna and Balrama travel in the forest of Vrindavana, playing their flutes and making intimate friendship with all kinds of moving and non-moving living creatures. When Krishna and Balrama play on their transcendental flutes, the moving creatures become stunned and stop their activities. And non-moving living creatures like trees and plants begin to shiver with ecstasy. These are the wonderful reaction to the vibration of the transcendental flutes of Krishna and Balrama. Krishna and Balrama carried binding ropes on their shoulders and in their hands, just like ordinary cowherd boys. While milking cows, cowherd boys bind the cows' hind legs with a small rope. This rope almost always hung from the shoulder of the cowherd boys, and it was not absent from the shoulders of Krishna and Balrama. In spite of their being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they played exactly like cowherd boys, and therefore everything became wonderful and attractive. While Krishna was engaged in tending the cows in the forest of Vrindavana or on Govardhana hill, the gopis in the village were always absorbed in thinking of him and discussing his different pastimes. This is the perfect example of Krishna consciousness, to somehow or the other remain always engrossed in the thoughts of Krishna. The vivid example is always present in the behavior of the gopis. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya declared that no one can worship the Supreme Lord by any method which is better than the method of the gopis. The gopis were not born in very high Brahmana or Kshatriya families. They were born in the families of Vaishyas and not in big mercantile communities, but in the families of cowherd men. They were not very well educated, although they heard all sorts of knowledge from the Brahmanas, the authorities of Vedic knowledge. The gopis' only purpose was to remain always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. With that, we end this beautiful chapter, my friends. And this particular chapter, I have read it from the bigger version of Krishna, the Stories of Krishna, from the bigger version, because the book from which I am reading for you has just small notes on this chapter. So I wanted to give a detailed version of this chapter. As we all know, we are very aware that flute means a lot to Lord Krishna, and how can we not listen to all these beautiful things, the great vibrations behind the flute. I trust and hope that you enjoyed the chapter, and if you're new to our channel, do subscribe for the upcoming episodes. And do not forget to hit the like button. And if you enjoy, kindly put your comments so that I will know who all watched and how you felt about the episode listening to it. Thank you. What did we learn from today's chapter? There is nothing equivalent to the love of gopis. It was very, very true, and they were absorbed in Lord Krishna's thought all the time. The way he talked, the way he plays, the way he played his flute. Every single second they were absorbed in his thought. And thus gopis take a very, very special place in Krishna's heart. And that is the way we can also fall in love with Lord Krishna again and again and again. There is nothing, my friends, there is nothing equivalent to the love of God. And it takes a very, very special place. All our worries get melted in this thought. In divine service, this is Lakshmi Srinivasan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bow to the Supreme, peace be with all. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.